Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be telling you a little story about the worst international trip I've ever taken. It's coming up right now on the Retro Hack Shack. So I know a lot of you are probably thinking, why are you telling me a story about your worst trip ever? Where's the vintage computers? Where's the retro goodness? Where's the nostalgia that I'm looking for out of this channel? Well, it all turns out that I haven't been able to make a lot of videos lately because of this particular story. And so I was going to share this with my patrons, but I just thought I'll just share it with everybody. And maybe you can relate. Maybe you've had some of these trips that have just gone wrong in every way possible. And that's what happened to me. It all started when I was taking a trip to Spain for a conference. There was a conference going on in Spain and I was attending it for work, and we put a lot of work into this conference, so it was very exciting. Also, this was the first international trip I've taken in probably at least 3 years. I used to take a lot of international trips, but of course, with the human malware that's been affecting society for the past couple of years, 2.5 years or so, those international trips have been canceled, and I haven't gone on any of these for a long time. So it goes without saying that I was super excited to take one of these trips. I've taken many of them in the past. I've been to Singapore and Germany and Brussels and Brazil and just all around the world. I've been very fortunate to have these experiences thanks to the companies that I've worked for and the fact that they've participated in a lot of these conferences that happen globally. And so I was really excited to get back on the road. Now, one thing about this trip is it was going to be a very long trip. So to go from here to Spain takes at least 12 hours, but usually more because there's usually a layover. So I was going to fly 10 hours from San Francisco to Paris, had a 4-hour layover, and then another 2 hours to Valencia, Spain, where this conference was going to take place. So everything started out kind of normally. I was a little bit rusty on my traveling, expertise, if you will. I haven't done it in a while, so I made sure all my batteries were charged. I made sure I had my headphones, my noise canceling headphones, so that the noise of the plane wouldn't bother me. And I planned on trying to stay up as long as I could, or maybe just sleep for a little bit on the plane, so that when I got to my hotel, I would be acclimated and I wouldn't have to worry about jet lag setting in. So I could just get to my hotel, stay up until it was the normal time to go to bed, and then go to bed, and I would be all set to go after that. So on my trip from San Francisco to Paris, I didn't sleep. I slept maybe half an hour or an hour, but that was it. So by the time I got to Paris, I was really, really tired. And they had to move us from the big part of Charles de Gaulle Airport to a smaller part in order to make this connection. And in the process of doing so, I had to go through security again. Even though I had already gone through security in San Francisco, I had to go through security again in Paris to get to the right terminal where my plane was going to depart for Valencia. Well, in the process, as I was going through the security checkpoint, they had me take off my belt, and I put my belt in, went through security, and as they were scanning my bag and my belt and my coat and all this kind of stuff, they stopped and called one of the people over that were in charge of security there at the checkpoint, and they were pointing at my stuff. They were pointing and pointing. And it turns out that I was wearing a belt that I had forgot. It was kind of like a Uber belt for like camping and stuff like that. And I didn't give it a second thought, but it had in it a little pop-out knife, kind of like a Swiss Army knife kind of thing. And it would just pop out, and it was kind of a gimmick, but it was made for camping and stuff like that. And well, they happened to see that this was there. And of course they flagged it. And I thought, well, okay, my bad. Maybe they'll take the belt and I'll have to get a new belt somewhere. Well, instead, they actually got on their walkie-talkies and called the airport police, had the airport police come and escort me after a lot of questions and interrogation right there at the security checkpoint. They actually escorted me back to the airport police station, where I had to wait for a couple of hours while their officer in charge got on the phone with I guess a lawyer or something, and they were trying to figure out if they were going to press charges and all of this stuff. So I didn't know what was going on. I mean, luckily they were super nice. They treated me really well. They didn't actually like throw me in a cell or anything. I was just kind of hanging out and waiting, but I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know if I was going to have to call the embassy. Are they going to take me to some jail somewhere, press charges? Am I going to have to pay a big fine? All for forgetting about the belt that I was wearing had this stuff built into it that I just never used and never even thought about before. So that was kind of terrifying as it was. But like I said, the police officers were super nice. They even, after we were done, they gave me all my stuff back. And of course they kept the belt, gave me everything but the belt, and kind of escorted me to my gate and showed me where to go and waved at me and everything. So luckily I had a long enough layover, 4 hours. I was able to spend that time in the police station and still make my flight to Valencia. Great. Now, one thing I noticed while I was in the international airports is they no longer required people to wear face masks in the airport. So both Charles de Gaulle and the Valencia airport, when I finally got there, nobody but Americans were wearing face masks. Everybody had their face masks off. That had me concerned a little bit, but hey, things were easing up. Looked like COVID was on the retreat for now, so didn't worry about it. I had my face mask on. I finally made my way to Valencia and got to the hotel in Valencia where I was staying about, I believe it was 11:30 or midnight when I finally got to the hotel. Still hadn't gotten any sleep. So I was just glad that the worst part of the trip was behind me. And I was really glad just to get to my hotel. All I wanted to do was go in, go to bed, and wake up the next day and kind of take a look around and see what was going on in Valencia. Well, I got to the hotel and I approached the front desk, told them who I was, what company I was with, that I was with a group, I was checking in, and the person at the front desk did a little checking on his computer and said, "I'm sorry, we don't have a room for you. Your reservation doesn't start till tomorrow." So apparently there was a mix-up and they had me checking in on the wrong day. I don't know what happened, whether we told them the wrong day or they didn't get the day right. Anyway, they didn't have my room ready. So I asked him, I said, "Well, do you have a room? I'm happy to pay for an extra room for tonight." And he said, "No, we're all sold out. We don't have any rooms for you. And here it is, midnight. I'm completely exhausted and there's no room in the inn, literally." So he said, "Hey, you can go sit over there. And at 2:00, if people haven't checked in, maybe there'll be some rooms that come available." So I was so tired. I went and sat down. I was looking up, maybe I can check in at another hotel for the night or something. Finally, they called me back over about 12:30 and said 12:30 or 1:00. And they said, "Look, we did find a room for you that we made available for one night. You can have this room and then move to another room for the rest of your stay." Okay, fine. So a couple of things had gone wrong at this point in my journey. No big deal. The worst is behind me. I'm going to go ahead and go up and get some sleep, which I did. The next day I got up, went out on the town, went down to the beach. Valencia is a beautiful, beautiful city. So I got some food. I walked around for about half the day and got back to my hotel and everything was going great. Well, on Tuesday, which was a couple days into my trip, the conference had started. I was at the conference and I noticed I was feeling a little bit of a scratchy throat. Now, of course, COVID is a pretty big concern when you're in a big group of people, like at a conference or just in the hotel or around, a lot of people. And so I was also with a lot of my colleagues at work. And if I was getting sick, even whether it was COVID or not, maybe just allergies or whatever, I don't know what it was. I didn't want to get them sick. So I immediately left the conference and went back to the hotel. By the time I got back to the hotel, my scratchy throat had turned into a bad cough. I was starting to get very feverish and feel very faint.
I feel feverish and sluggish.
And basically went right to bed and, was miserably sick. And on top of that, the various new bacterias and parasites and things in the water that my body wasn't used to had also caught up with me at this point.
I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea.
And of course, the next morning when I got up, I took a COVID test and sure enough, I had COVID-19. So that was a really miserable few days while I was recovering from COVID. Like I said, really bad cough, really achy, feverish, couldn't get warm. All I could do basically was lay in bed and, watch a little bit of TV, go back to sleep, go take a shower, come back, go to sleep. I slept for almost 3 days straight. So unfortunately, at this point, I had COVID, which meant I couldn't go to the conference. So I basically had to miss the whole conference and spend those days in the hotel. Not only that, but if you get COVID, if you've done any traveling lately, especially internationally, you'll know that you have to have a negative COVID test in order to board a plane to go to most countries. So I was obviously COVID positive at that point, and it takes a while. If you have COVID, it takes a while for it to, for you to become negative again. So I had to delay my flight out. I was there for a week. I had to delay my flight almost an entire week more until I got to the point that I could test negative. So now I'm stuck in a hotel essentially for most of the time, ordering my meals via room service or food delivery service, and getting those sent up to my room. They had to swap towels with me, leave them outside the door, and I would pick them up and stuff like that. Pretty miserable experience. Now, the one good thing is, even though I had COVID, once my symptoms were gone, I was able to wear an N95 mask because of this is the way the protocols are in Spain. I was able to put on an N95 mask and still go outdoors, for example, take a look around. I wasn't able to go in groups. You're not supposed to go in close quarters with anyone, but I was able to put on a mask and walk around. And Valencia is a beautiful city, luckily. Had a great time walking through all the parks that were within walking distance of the hotel. Didn't want to take a cab because I didn't want to expose the cab drivers to COVID, but I was able to walk around and walk for miles and miles. I got all of my steps and heart points in on my fitness app every day because I was just walking like crazy. And like I said, Valencia is a beautiful, beautiful city. There's lots of old buildings and old architecture because it is such an old city. The parks there are beautiful. There was even a spot where they had actual Valencia oranges growing in the park that had oranges on them. I mean, I could have taken one back to my hotel and had some fresh squeezed orange juice if I really felt like it. But just a beautiful city. I really had a lot of time to explore the outdoor areas of Valencia. And so I'm grateful that I was at least able to get out of the hotel and walk around because there really wasn't much else to do at that point since I was still testing positive. Now, finally was able to get a negative test certified by a doctor, and that allowed me to take the trip back to San Francisco. I got back to San Francisco, again, super tired. I didn't really sleep much on the way back. Walked off the plane. It was so nice to see my wife waiting for me. We had a nice hug, and I was so just glad to get back in my home country and my hometown and my own bed and all of that kind of stuff. And as we're walking out of the airport, she looks down and she says, "Wait a second, I don't have my keys." So she had parked in short-term parking and lost her keys somewhere in the airport. And so we spent a few hours, even though I was exhausted, we spent a few hours walking around the airport looking for her keys, couldn't find them. And so we ended up having to take the BART, which is the metro here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and Uber to get back. So it's kind of like adding insult to injury at that point, because what are you going to do? I was exhausted. It took forever to get back to our house. We finally made it back. And then I had to come back the next day and go to Lost and Found. Luckily, they did find her keys. So I was able to get her keys, get the car out, pay for overnight parking in the short-term parking lot, and finally get home. So I'm feeling pretty good at this point. I still have a little bit of a cough, just a little bit of nasally stuff going on, but there's really not much. But the big thing that is still sticking with me is I'm super tired, especially at night. So I usually stay up till 2 a.m. and then get up at 7, and that's enough sleep for me. It's how I'm able to do these videos, essentially, with my busy work and everything else going on, is a lot of times I do this stuff at night after everybody else goes to bed. Well, I haven't been able to do that recently, so between the trip taking forever and then not being able to stay up, I fall asleep kind of pretty easily at night now to try to get my health back, I assume. I haven't been able to make videos. So I just wanted to kind of tell you that story. Not that I'm looking for sympathy or anything like that, but it is definitely the worst trip I've ever had in terms of things going wrong. Luckily, like I said, Spain was great. Really would encourage anyone to visit if you're able to. But, maybe just wait until COVID has settled down a little bit more before you make that trip. And so, unfortunately, it's affected my ability to produce videos, but I'm feeling better. I'm feeling awake as I film this right now in the evening. I feel like I'm ready to get back to making videos. And so more videos are on the way. Have you had a bad trip anywhere? Have you had a bad experience? Maybe leave that information down in the comments. Let me know what your worst trip was or your worst experience, anything that happened that went wrong. I'd love to kind of read up on that and sympathize with you as you're hopefully sympathizing with me on my awful experience. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give you an update on where I stand with making videos. They will be coming again now that I'm feeling better, and you can look forward to them soon on the channel. So thanks to everybody who has subscribed. I've got a ton of new subscribers all of a sudden, which is great as I'm marching towards 10,000 by the end of the year. People are liking my videos and really sending a lot of encouraging comments. So thank you everybody that's done that. And thank you for all my patrons for sponsoring all of the work that I do. You'll see their names coming up in just a minute in the credits. And, even though I've had a little bit of a delay here in making videos, I really want to thank my patrons for sticking with me and supporting the channel. It really does go a long way to helping being able to make these videos and afford the equipment that I need to get these videos made. So thank you very much for my patrons for sticking with me. With that, I think that'll about wrap it up. Look for more videos soon on the channel, and we'll see you next time. Patrons receive ad-free and early access to content after the episode commentary, and of course, your name in the credits. If you liked that episode, here's a few more you might enjoy, and I thank you for your support.
End of line.